Hello and welcome to Gathering's launch of our new CD, Butchers of Bristol.
Thanks so much for coming along this evening. We're faced with a slightly daunting task of launching our album online. What do we do? So we've put together some really cool videos for you this evening. And first up is Black and Grey.
Our next track we're going to share with you is Lord Albemarle's Delight. When we were arranging this tune, I was really inspired by Afro-Cuban music and Colombian music and all the rhythms and melody lines and riffs you get with that genre. So it was such a pleasure to work with Sarah and Laura, who really got the groove spot on with this, and then we popped the tune on top and they fitted like they're meant to be together. So make sure you got your dancing slippers on for this one, because it's such an upbeat and fun track, and we hope you enjoy it. This is Lord Albemarle's Delight.
I hope you'll agree with Lord Albemarle. That was delightful. And we are so looking forward to playing these new tunes at gigs and shows soon. We're hoping that'll be a little bit later this year. But I just wanted to take a moment to say a massive thank you to our Kickstarter supporters. We smashed our Kickstarter target, which has enabled us to produce physical copies of the CD. But we set ourselves a bit of a challenge. We wanted to ensure that the artwork and the CD was at the same standard as the audio. But how do you visually represent Gadarene? Well, for those of you who have been to our shows, you may well remember our Zen-like mandolinist Matt, surrounded by the high energy and occasionally chaotic fiddle, flute, bass, drums and clogs. Talking of which, it's time for me to leave you in Laurel's capable clogs. Sorry, hands. She has very capable hands and feet.
Hi! So, the next tune is called Go to the Devil and Shake Yourself, and it's from a manuscript from about 1815, which is a similar kind of time that cotton mills were going through their crazy expansion, particularly in the north of England. And one of the things that came out of cotton mills from that time is clog dancing. People were wearing clogs for work, not so that they could dance in their lunch break, because it was practical workwear. So those kind of open clogs, if you got your foot caught in a bit of machinery, you could simply slip your foot out and you wouldn't lose your foot. The cotton mills were pretty dangerous, noisy places. And yeah, the people were kind of coming from all over. And in Lancashire, there was a lot of people also from Ireland. And the steps I'm going to do are kind of a fusion between the Lancashire steps and the Irish steps. And I learned them from a woman called Pat Tracy, and they're known as the Lancashire Irish steps. And yeah, I thought you'd like to see my clogs. Here they are. They're wooden sole, wooden on the inside. And these ones have got my Team Camden Clogs logo on them. So here they are. There they are. This is Go to the Devil and Shake Yourself.
One of the things that I really love about being in Gadarene is the unusual tunes that we get to play. They're all English tunes, English dance tunes. The oldest are about 350 years old, the youngest, or least old you could say, about 150 years old. And they come from different sources. Some of them come from printed sources, from tune books or from dancing manuals. And some of them come from handwritten sources. And those are kind of a bit more exciting in a way, because it gives you an impression of an individual who was also a musician at some point in the past. Quite a lot of the old manuscripts come from musicians that we don't know a great deal about, but there's one or two where we do, and I was going to tell you a little bit about a chap called William Irwin, who wrote down the tunes that he knew about 150 years ago. And it's particularly nice to be thinking about him and his manuscript, because the tune we took from that was Butchers of Bristol, which of course is the title track of the album. And the reason we know a lot about William Irwin is because his son wrote some lovely letters to the folk song collector Anne Gidders Gilchrist, describing his father. They're really beautiful letters that you can see on the Vaughan Williams library website. And there's pages and pages of them, so I'll just tell you a little bit about him. And he was a musician like a lot of musicians who played for traditional dance. He played for social dancing, he played in pubs. There's lovely descriptions in the letters of him playing for step dance and the sort of step dancing people used to do in the pubs. And he also used to play in church for the choir, which was probably the reason that he was able to write music, that he was musically literate, because he also played in the church. He wasn't formally educated, really. He had little education, but only a small amount. And he worked as a cooper, which means he made barrels. And in his letters, Edwin, his son, talks about the, kind of these two stages in William's life. The first one where he was working as a cooper, they'd get paid at the end of the month, and then he'd spend the first week of the next month basically spending all the money on alcohol. And then the family would have a really grim time for 3 weeks each month trying to scrape money together to get food. And they ended up in quite a lot of debt, and it was quite a difficult time for the family. And then in 1875, William took the pledge, which means that he promised that he wouldn't drink alcohol anymore. And it completely turned his life around. He managed to pay off his debts and actually had quite a reasonable income. The income from being a cooper was enough to live on, but only that. But of course he was making extra money working as a musician. And he spent that money on books mostly. And he bought history books, he bought biographies of famous people, he bought books on all sorts of different kinds of science. He bought books on geology, and he used to regularly go into the hills and collect rock samples and look at the geological structures there. He had lots of books on astronomy and even on astrology. In fact, apparently he could do horoscopes, though he did say at one point that he didn't really believe in them, but he was aware of that as well. He bought the books unbound, and then he actually bound them himself. There's a really lovely description that Edwin gave of him. He said, "He made for himself a book-binding press and bound the volumes. I have his Rollin's Ancient History bound in red leather. It seems as if it will last forever and a day." It's a really sweet description. And he made telescopes as well. He made 3 telescopes during his lifetime. Another extraordinary thing he did, so many, was that he took stones from a place near where he lived and made them into a musical instrument. Just in that particular area, there are stones that ring like a xylophone, and he made a collection of them and was able to make them into an instrument. And they're quite famous, actually, these Skiddaw musical stones. There's a really lovely description that his son gave, which said that with the last telescope he made, which was the 3rd telescope he made, just a few days, in fact, before he died, he was able to see Mercury. Edwin said he was delighted past everything when he found it. And he told them all many times that the thing with Mercury is it follows close to the sun, so it's not so easy to see. We have a description of him as well, what he looked like. He was about 5 foot 6 inches high, of slight build, light complexion and active. To the last he had the springy step of a young man and was as straight and supple as a willow wand. By all accounts he was a fine fiddler, and there's a lot of really interesting and good tunes in his book. And I think for me it's really exciting to know a little bit about him, because then when we play the tune, and maybe when you listen to the tune, we can feel a little bit of connection with this musician who was playing for dance just as we do, but 150 years ago.
Next up, Nick, Matt and I are going to share a tune for you called Northern Frisk. This is a tune from John Walsh's third book of the most celebrated jigs from 1730. It's not actually a jig though, it's a 3/2 hornpipe, but we're glad he celebrated it anyway. It's such a beautiful tune and we really hope you enjoy it. This is Northern Frisk. 1, 2, 3.
You guys, it's so nice. I love that one.
Too kind.
Yeah, it's like you're all huddled around the one microphone in the studio, just like acing it in one take.
I know. I mean, it's definitely one of my favourite tracks on the album, and compared to the millions and millions of microphones we used on the drums, that track had just the one mic hanging in the middle of the room. So yeah, definitely a favourite, that one.
Yeah, it was done in one take, but we probably had more than one go at it. I don't know. I don't know if you remember.
We let you rehearse it once, Nick. Yeah.
Good. That's great.
It's so great to hear everything on the album as well. I've been dancing here. Like I haven't even got I've got my slippers on.
Same, got mine on.
Have you got your slippers on, John? Okay.
I've got my slippers on as well.
I haven't got my
chainsaw proof slippers, John.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Safety slippers.
So hopefully you've been enjoying this so far, folks. the next thing is we are going to play you a video of the title track of the album, which is Butchers of Bristol. Oh, that was great fun putting all that stuff together, and lots of great memories of some of those gigs as well. Huge thanks to Josh for his brilliant trumpet playing on that track, and also on Child Grove, another track on the album. And massive thanks to Polly as well for her lovely sax playing on Child Grove, and also on the Psy. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the recording process, how we actually made the album. We were lucky enough to get booked into Propagation House Studios, which is a residential studio in the leafy wilds of Devon, which is quite convenient for me because it's just up the road. And we were really fortunate there to be able to work with the studio owner, Mark Ellis. That's him. You can see him. He's just come in through the door. He's a bit camera shy. Never mind. Anyway, you won't get to see Mark, but you get to hear his lovely work. We worked with Mark in the studio, spending lots of time working on the tracks, and he really helped to guide us through that process. We did a certain amount of writing while we were there. Some of it was brought in from just directly from our live material, and some other things were created new. So that was a really great experience. The other thing about that studio, which is just fantastic, is the residential aspect of it. So as well as being able to work during the day with each other on the music, we were also able to hang out as well and cook and eat together and just be in this really quirky space. I mean, what's not to love about half an old piano hanging on the wall? We were able to spend evenings writing and rearranging stuff, and also to have a few games of pool. Some of us played better than others. Anyway, once all that was done, it was time to pack our bags. We'd done a couple of weekends, basically fitted it in over 2 weekends, done all the main recording, and then we went off to some other locations to record some of the other bits. So my home studio, aka my living room, to do some whistling, and to Josh's studio to do the brass. I'd sent it all back to Mark then, and he did just the most fantastic job, and thanks to him for this, of producing and mixing this album. So thank you very much to Mark for that. Once that was done, I was able, and very lucky again, in one of the non-lockdown periods to be able to get up to Bath to work with Josh Clark at Get Real Audio on the mastering. Massive thanks to Josh for his work. I think he's just put the polish on this album and made it sound so great, so thanks to him for that. Then it just remained to get it out to you to listen to, and I hope you're really enjoying what you've heard of it so far. Well, while we were at the studio, we decided, and in retrospect this was a very good idea because lockdown happened not long after, that it would be a sensible idea if we made some video all together. So our next and our last video this evening is us actually doing something in a room all at the same time. It's a beautiful old English tune that we've done our arrangement of called Hodlass.
It's really exciting for us to finally get this music out, and thank you so much for coming along and joining us for our launch.
If you want to get your hands on a copy of Butchers of Bristol, head over to our website, gatherinmusic.com, or it's on Apple Music or Bandcamp. And don't forget to follow us on the socials as well.
And we can't wait to play for you live soon on a dance floor somewhere, hopefully at a party or a festival. And thanks so much for coming.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.